Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is #NoLimits, and #NoLimits is about people whose society has placed limits upon, but who have busted through those limits. I am your host, Shelley Keno, and I believe what Ophelia says in Hamlet 100%, that we know who we are, but not who we will be. And I believe there's not a better example of that than the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. For those who don't know, the caterpillar literally dissolves into cells and then reforms into the butterfly. I'm imagining that can't be easy. And then it has to struggle to get out of the cocoon in order for its wings to be strong enough to take it on all of its beautiful journeys. None of that, I imagine, is easy, but then neither is busting through the limits that society places upon us, especially those limits that are placed upon our children and our students. And I had the great opportunity a few weeks ago to visit a school in St. Louis, Missouri area called Miriam Learning School. And I don't know if I said the whole title right, so correct me if it's when you speak, Meg, but that school absolutely blew me away with how innovative it is, how child-centered it is, and how it truly is helping so many kids bust through those limits. So I'm very excited to have Meg, the head of Miriam School, with me today. Thank you for joining me, Meg. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really, really excited to be here today as well to talk about the magic of Miriam School and Learning Center, because it's an amazing place.
Yes, I've done a little bit more research since I came to visit you, and I just absolutely love everything that you're doing. The staff that I met that day were so wonderful and genuine. I mean, I felt like they really have a genuine love and care for every individual that comes through the doors, including me. I mean, I was there on a talking tour. Most of the people there didn't know that, I was there because of having the podcast and because I'm a special ed advocate. I almost called myself an advocate. I am, but I really do more coaching. But I mean, everybody was just so excited. And it was before the school year started, and they were like, "Oh, you've got to come back and really see it when it's in play, when the kids are here." So tell us about Miriam and what the philosophy is, and just kind of how you got there to begin with.
Sure. Well, maybe if I explain how I got there, it might help explain the philosophy of the school, because I absolutely fell in love with the organization. I have had the privilege of working with kids who learn differently and have challenges my entire career. And I spent a lot of time working and learning as much as I could to help kids, whether it was in the classroom or as a system-wide thing. And I was able to come and visit Miriam on an interview. And I walked into the school first, and that's our Bacon Avenue location in Webster Groves, because we actually have 2 campuses. And as soon as I walked in the school, I could tell that this was kind of the place for me, because there was so much joy present. Everywhere I went, I saw kids I don't know if when you work with little kids, they have this happy skip. So they were, doing the happy skip down the hallway, and the girls who have ponytails, their ponytails they're swinging. And the boys are, happy, some of them are singing to themselves. And that was the first thing I noticed. And I noticed the teachers felt the same way. There was this deep connection to kids that I know is what helps open their brains for learning and for feeling like they matter. And then as I walked around the school, you're right. It's the way that the school was created was so smart. At the center in the heart of the building is the occupational therapy room. And that's where our kids at the lower and middle school have a sensory diet twice a day. Because of course, if your body's not regulated or you're not feeling good in your own skin, how could you possibly learn? And I was like, right. Oh my goodness, because that was one of my pipe dreams, have something like that. And there it was, and it's a beautiful building, which let me know that there are so many people that have supported Miriam over the years. Miriam Foundation started in 1910 by, I imagine, these really cool group of women who are we want to give back to the community, to the city of St. Louis, and really help people. And they started and they helped with, cancer for a while. And then they worked with kids who had cognitive impairments and developmental disabilities. And then we've kind of morphed into, helping children in the school, K-12, with kids who have more complex challenges. So that means that like there's an and. So some of our kids have autism and they may have like a sensory processing disorder. They may have a specific learning disability and, anxiety, those kinds of things. And they do it really, really well.
Yes.
So that's like, I was like, this is the place for me. The other cool thing about Miriam is it's not only helping kids in our K-12 school, but we have this amazing outreach program called the Learning Center. The Learning Center was started in like 2007. The school started in 1956. The Learning Center 2007 because we wanted it to be kind of like a one place shopping experience for parents. So as a mom of a kiddo who learns differently, I spent a lot of time after school trying to get my kiddo to like different appointments. And it was really hard because our students struggle to generalize, right? So they would have, my son, for example, would have all these therapies in different locations, but for him to generalize what he was learning for, say, speech or whatever in school just took a lot, it was just harder. So the Learning Center offers all kinds of therapies after school. And actually during the school day, we have a partnership with over 100 schools in the St. Louis region. And we work directly with schools to provide those special education services. So last year, for example, just with the Learning Center alone, we provided services from evaluations to therapies for over 1,600 kids.
Wow.
And our school serves 170 kids. So, we're in it to help as many people as possible. And I love that, like, reach out and embrace as many kids as we possibly can.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that you, as a parent of a child who learns differently, would have to go to all of those different appointments, because I don't often think that people really understand all of the things that they don't have to be, but they might be involved with a child who is learning different. And so I'm glad that you brought that up. And what are all the different therapies that the Learning Center offers?
Oh my goodness. I forgive me, anyone who's listening, if I forget something, because there are so many. So for example, if your student needs an evaluation, for me and getting my own son an evaluation, it was almost a 9-month wait. And I worked really hard, and I was calling on a weekly basis because you're put on the wait list, and like if someone cancels kind of thing. It took 9 months with like really disciplined approach to do that. And my understanding is, in St. Louis, it can be 9 months to 2 years to get an evaluation. Our Learning Center can typically get somebody in within 2 months for an evaluation. And that could be a medical diagnosis or an educational diagnosis. And then obviously working to merge those two things. So that's amazing. And so then
Can I stop you right there to elaborate on that a little bit? So in that, is it the psychoeducational evaluation too?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. Because yes, I've had students, clients who have wanted to get that for their child. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. Where I am, it's 9 months to 2 years wait. And so good. Now I have another resource where I can send people and.
Yeah. And what we know is the faster we can, unfortunately, sometimes we have to get those diagnoses and identifications so our kids can get services. So the faster they get that, the faster they get what they need, so that we can help build their brains and help them overcome the obstacles that they sometimes face. So we have that. And then we have this really cool, so the director of Learning Center, her name is Beth Rose. And she is someone who's able to really understand the needs of St. Louis, and all the surrounding. We actually serve 82 zip codes. So we help a lot of people. And one of the things that we know is that kids, especially with autism, really need, especially the little ones, but Beth calls them the itty bitties, about 2 years old, to get that diagnosis. The ADOS testing is something that's really important because it's a lot. It's not as subjective. It involves two evaluators. One person is doing the test, the other person's, making sure that they're really looking at that student so that, or I guess they're kind of a kiddo at that time, like to see, where they're at, and they're able to kind of give a much more robust evaluation. So we have decided this year we're going to be doing the ADOS testing for people. And that's great because, again, talking to local hospitals that do it, again, that wait can be 9 months to 2 years. And so imagine a student who really needs services. And of course, those doors open once, kids get that autism identification for all kinds of services so we can build their brains at an earlier age. But waiting 2 years to get the diagnosis, it means that, we lose so much time. So we're really excited because even some of the area hospitals are talking about giving us their wait list so we can serve more kids. So,
fantastic.
Yeah. So we do that. And then once we have someone who's identified or just needs something, whether it's, tutoring in any content, necessary, we do employ reading specialists too. So we're able to provide that specialized instruction. So we have tutors. We have the ability to provide OT speech in different therapies. I think we have art therapy going on. So whatever someone needs. And then we also have ABA therapists that can go and work with people in their schools, whether or after school. So we've got a lot. It's kind of like whatever someone needs. So, the Miriam School serves kids with these complex challenges, but the Learning Center provides even more. So the kids, it could be a little bit or it could be a lot more involved.
So you're just truly a hidden gem. And yeah. I hope that with this and, other publicity that you all are doing, I mean, you've been around since 1956.
Right.
And I hadn't really heard about you. And I've been in special education since the early 1990s. Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's a long time.
It's okay.
I know. And so, to know that you're doing all of that stuff and you're just on the other side of the river from me, honestly.
Right.
And I think that is, and I don't know how to fix this problem, but I think this is a problem for a lot of families that have students who have different learning needs, is knowing what is available to them. And I don't know how to get the information to everybody, because I know, like myself, and I know you guys absolutely, and other organizations that I know about, you're advertising it and you're getting people, but there's still so many people who don't know about the possibility of Miriam School and the Learning Center.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I know there's, 2 or 3 million people in the area, but still.
Right. Well, and there's so many people that are suffering, right? I mean, it's so hard. Coming at this, now I'm going to put my parent hat on. Like, it's so hard to be a parent anyway, right? Our kids aren't born with an instruction book, and then if you have a student who has, challenges and really struggles in that traditional classroom, there's so much more. And none of us, I think the hardest thing is when you watch your kid struggle. And sometimes we have to struggle to grow. But the struggles that I think so many kids and therefore so many families are enduring, they don't need to be like that. I mean, one of the other draws for me was moving to the city of St. Louis, which is such a philanthropic city. I come from the Northeast, where I spent most of my life and my career. And then I was in Chestertown, Maryland, which is, working at the Radcliffe Creek School, which is an amazing place. But in general, I would say that, it's really hard for families to figure out what to do with their kids. And so when I saw St. Louis and understood that there's I think there's something like 13,000 not-for-profit organizations in the St. Louis area. One of the things that I want and wish for Miriam is to help people connect the dots. And just, Nicole, who is our HR person, she has a sign on a door that says, "We've got this." And I really want to help connect the dots, because there are a lot of good folks out there doing really good things for kids, but it's the not knowing and helping people understand what they need to do. When your student is newly diagnosed, it's really hard. And my husband and I, we're both special educators. And again, I spent a whole career doing it. But when my son got diagnosed, it was so hard. I was biting the inside of my cheek to not cry, and to try to figure things out. And when he would have, issues in the classroom and I get that phone call, and I know people are trying to do their best, with a lot of kids in the class, but gosh, that cuts so deep, and I was like, I should be able to do something, or the team should be able to do something, because it doesn't have to be like this. And the nights where I would sit, and try to figure something out with the tears streaming down my face, I know that so many people have the same experience, and we don't have to have that, and that's why, again, I love Miriam, because we seek to serve the community and help people. I don't know if it was the day that you were doing the talking tour, but Beth was talking about how someone knocked on the door of the learning center because their 3-year-old had just been diagnosed. One of the women didn't speak English very, very well, and they did not know what to do. And they just sat there. And so Beth took them into her office, and, between her and some of the other people in Learning Center, kind of helped direct this family on the next steps. And we just want to do that. We want to not only help as many kids as we can, because that's our mission, but also like to make sure that everyone has, the knowledge behind it. It's so hard to be a parent.
Well, yeah. And if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your parenting experience and then come back to Miriam. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So can you explain what it was that you had to bite your cheek from crying? What was it that you were wanting to cry about when he got his diagnosis?
Well, I don't know. We only have an hour, Shelley, so I'm very fast. But I think that what I know about my son is that he is truly like a talented, bright, happy sunshine. I used to call him my sunshine boy. He's 15 now, so I might still say that. And he just kind of, might speak the language of Grumpington sometimes. So he might give me a smile as he gets out of the car. But this kid could light up a room, and I could see, that I needed to channel his talents for good. For example, he could take apart anything that you'd put in front of him within a couple minutes. He could open any, child lock within a couple seconds. He could get out of his car seat,
Oh, no.
seconds. Yeah, he was like the Houdini kind of guy. And I knew how bright he was, but I also knew that he has 2 older sisters. But his language development was delayed. He was the human tornado. So when he was little, like his ADHD was really, something that took a lot of work. And it was hard. He would go to school, and well-meaning people would tell me that, he wouldn't sit crisscross applesauce on the rug when the teacher was reading a story. And I'm sorry, but I don't really think that all people need to do that. In my old age of 51, I don't know if I could do that 20 minutes and get off the rug. But these are the things that I thought, this is ridiculous. We know that he has this. He's had it since he, even in the womb, I think, was kung fu fighting or whatever he was doing. So I really think that Owen, he just needed the instruction, the techniques, but also all of the barriers that were just expectations that I didn't feel were real. So we had that. And then he kept getting into trouble. And I am a rule follower. My older girls were rule followers. Nobody in my family had ever been suspended from anything, in my, immediate family growing up. And my son got suspended in the 2nd grade for hitting somebody. And he didn't hurt them, but he did it. And then he was kind of rebuked, and then he did it again. And so I had to go see and I was also in an administrative position in the town that we lived in. So that was a challenge. So I waited, and there was my son, in the little, timeout closet-y space in the office, sitting there, dejected. And he says, Mommy, I'm a bad boy. And I was like, well, I think you made some choices that, aren't correct. Tell me what happened. And what it came down to is that he was acting out every time during writing, because he actually has some, especially when he was little, some significant dysgraphia. So holding the pencil hurt his hand. Right. And what he was writing, he's bright enough to know what he's putting on the page. He kept saying, it's forever, because what he could see is that what it was in his brain was not transferring to the paper. Right. And, it was forever for him. And I'm like, well, you could erase it. We could, but he wasn't, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So getting him those supports. He also, like his mom, which we could talk about in a minute if you want, is, dyslexic. So there was those issues. He was having a hard time with that phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and even understanding and hearing the right sounds, and all of this kind of came to a head in second grade. And again, the teacher was well-meaning, but he was not a traditional kid. And he just, I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad boy. He became more and more depressed, would cry going to school, would cry after school. And I knew it didn't have to be like that. Because again, I devoted my career to helping the struggle in my own life. You know, I had worked to overcome my learning challenges. And so sitting in a meeting and hearing things like, he's anxious because you're in the school. Because I was an administrator for the central office. Or, he's naughty. The naughty word came up a lot. Was really hard for me because, again, he's such a sweet soul.
Right.
And then I saw him starting to believe that. So that was hard. And again, there were good people along the way that propped him up and then propped me up. I had some amazing people that I worked with in the central office and in the schools. But again, like my whole life I've spent trying to help kids, and I watched my own son start to disappear. So those are the bite the cheek kind of cry moments, because I just couldn't connect it for people.
Right.
And I was seeing the consequence at home all day, every day.
Yeah, I very much appreciate you sharing. I know that was very personal, but I ask you to share that because I don't think, and I don't understand it, to be perfectly honest, because I've not experienced it. I have empathy for what I can understand of it, that it is, some of it is like relief because now we have a diagnosis.
Right.
Okay, now I can take this and say, see, he's not naughty.
Right.
There's underlying things happening here that you don't know about. But then it's also that, you see this all the wonderful things.
Yeah.
And then somebody tells you, well, here's some not so wonderful things. Mm-hmm. And, having to sort of almost mourn the fact that child, that beautiful child, that perfect child, in your opinion, somebody has now told you on paper.
Right.
He really isn't perfect by whatever that standard of perfect looks like.
Right. And I think all of us are very realistic about our kids. Like we know that they're not perfect, because again, we live it with them. Like we also know that kids are different in school than they are at home. And sometimes there's that, that like bridge that needs to happen in a really intentional way. And again, the people that I work with were good folks. Like it, and I think that they, at the moment in time, thought that they were doing right by telling me every time I saw them that like, oh, yet another morning, it was tough. The nice thing is, for my kiddo is that we were able to get him the help that he needed, and really work with that dyslexia. We got some great services. OT was really important for us. We had a really great developmental pediatrician. So that was helpful for me, who was really just very candid, because sometimes, and I don't know if other parents have this, but you just kind of spin in this, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Am I doing enough? Am I not doing enough? Like, why does this have to be like this? And someone just needs to say, you just need to think about this, like, I need you to really consider this and try this for a reasonable amount of time, and so he was able to get services and things. Like, I feel like for some of our guys, it's just those connections need to happen, and they need to be that explicit, systematic, specialized instruction to help those connections happen in the brain, because a lot of our kids, it just doesn't happen naturally, and it was interesting because my son's older sister, like, she just basically read, and it was so hard for me to understand how that happened because I worked so hard to learn how to read. And I really, it wasn't until I worked at, there's a school called the Landmark School in Manchester by the Sea in Massachusetts. And it's for kids who have specific language disabilities, language-based disabilities. And I took the Linda Mood Bell LIPS program to teach. That was like a requirement. And gosh, that was hard for me because I never learned how to read that way. I'm really great with visual stuff. And I was great with that, like that rhyming thing. And like, okay, if this word ends like this, and then this must be the word. But when I did lips, I was like, oh my goodness, like this makes sense to me, to make those connections. But like, we just have to help these kids and families make those connections for kids in the brain. And then things come together. And for my son, thankfully, things, came together, and he's been doing great in high school, but it's all because of the supports that he got along the way to get him there. And, we're all works in progress. So, he's got a lot, we all have a lot of growing and living to do, but I'm really proud of how we were able to do that. But I tell you, those second grade moments, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, it's just hard because we love our kids so much and we know the good that they are. And that's another favorite thing about Miriam that I have, is that we really, really try to celebrate and honor the strengths and the good in each child, that they not only bring like the school, like the classroom, but also the school community and then the greater community. And we try to remind them of that all the time. And it's just so joyful because they're like, I'm not bad. I'm not broken. I'm just Meg, or I'm just other kids. And so, Mary Kenyatta, who's at the lower middle school, and now Vicki Thurman, who's the principal at the high school, like they have that, and they're able to kind of guide the staff who are there for that reason. And that's why when you're walking around, you could see that. And Shelley only got to see summer camp. So again, the school year, it's just a longer time with the kids. So that grows and grows and grows. And again, there's so much joy and understanding so that kids aren't walking around feeling like I'm looked at for the thing that I'm not. Our kids are looked at the things that they are. And then we take that and we help them get the strategies, techniques, instruction that they need to help the other side of it. I don't know if other people have had experiences or you have with kids who are in high school, but one of the things that has always bothered me is that sometimes because of the system, kids who have IEPs often are the ones who are left out of the AP classes. There are really classes that have rigor, those specialized classes, because, well, they have an IEP. And so it's like they have to lose something because of what they're struggling with, which maybe we should have been helping them all along with, to not feed and nourish their brains for the good that they are. And I love that about our high school because we have those pathways to do it.
That's
awesome.
I
don't think people should be penalized for that.
Right. And it is, I think it's a philosophy shift and a mindset shift,
right?
That we do need to look at the strengths. We do need, when we're when we're supporting the areas that are a little weaker, we should be bolstering at the same time the areas that the child is strong in. And now hearing your own background as well, your own personal background, and then the background with your son, one of the things that I noticed, the different people that I talked to when I was there that day, is that almost everyone that I talked to, and I didn't talk to all the staff by any stretch of the imagination, but that you all have some sort of either diagnosed or undiagnosed, you think, learning disability, learning difference, something from your own background. And so for myself, mine wasn't as much a learning as an anxiety issue.
Okay.
But I think that's part of why I love working with kids who are eligible for special education, because I understand somewhat of what it feels like to not feel like you're good enough, because that was a big part of my anxiety is trying to be perfect all the time and not, feeling like you have friends or, just all the different things. And I think that's something that a lot of special educators have, is that they have their own background story. And that's a lot of why they do what they do. But so going back to, we did your interview, you came out and you just fell in love with it and everything. And so you accepted the position. Yeah. Was it the head of the school that was your first position, or did you kind of move up a little bit before?
So before that, I was at a head of school for a K. Well, actually, it was infants through grade 8 school in Maryland, which had a very similar mission. And I ended up there, and I was there for 4 years. But before that, I was, I was working as director of student services for a school district, and I really felt like I could try to make a systematic change. And I think we did really good things together, but there was always this feeling. And I think that maybe it's the perfectionist side of me, maybe it's something else, but where I just felt like what I was doing was never enough because, again, every child, I believe, and Miriam believes, is a promise. And so, like, there's always, always good progress, always a heart, I think, in schools, the schools that I've served in, for kids. But it wasn't enough because it's like optimizing potential versus just making progress.
Right.
And again, wanting to see that what every child, no matter if they have special educational needs or not, offers us, like, in working with that mindset. So I started fantasizing about, like, if I could have my own school, like, because again, I was a reading and writing specialist actually by trade for about 15 years before, like, leading up to being an administrator. So I work with mostly like middle elementary age students, and created with some friends some really successful like programs and things that we were able to do for kids to get them not only up to reading level but off IEPs. But I was like, we need to do this. We could do this. So when I grow up, I'm gonna have my own school. And so I started when the days were long, looking at like how would I do that, because don't necessarily come from money, don't necessarily have money. So I was like, I have to like create this vision. And so I started thinking about words or things that were really important to me: care, connection, customized learning approach so that everyone gets what they need by the most qualified people when they need it. Things like authentic feedback so that, because we know that we all do better when feedback is authentic, those kinds of pieces. Making sure that everyone is given instructional, I can't talk, meaning that's instruction that's meaningful and connected to them. So I started like Googling and I came across this school. I went to my husband, who is super supportive, but we had just moved to the town that I was working in, only like 3 or 4 years previously. So I was like, look at this school. This is amazing. I don't even have to create this. It already exists. And he was like, what, are you crazy? Like, it's in Maryland. We don't live there, so he, and I just couldn't, I bookmarked the page, which was not very smart, or it was smart because I kept looking at it,
Right.
And finally I was like, I just need to apply. And he was like, it's fine. It's a national, he said something like, it's a national search, you're not going to get it. And of course you can't say that to someone like me. When you have a challenge, right, in life, a learning challenge or a life challenge, I think a lot of us, like, we set small goals to get bigger goals, but you can't tell us we can't do something. That's like I'm going to do this. And so thankfully I did it and I got it and we moved to Maryland. But it just was nice to kind of have all those things start to come together. But what I always want to do, and what I feel like one of my commitment to myself, to this world, is to give back and help as many kids as possible. And so when I saw the potential and the opportunity for Miriam, it was something I could not say no to. And I feel like I've worked my whole life to get here and be here, So.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the teachers that are there, and I only met a couple of administrative people there, but you all seem to have that joy. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And I told you that day that if I was still into teaching full time, that's exactly where I want to be. Yeah. Because the way that every teacher, the classrooms are set up, the way that what you said before in your intro about the whole way the building is set up and how the classrooms are, and having that big OT room right in the middle. And I don't know if I have video of it today, but I did a reel a couple times and shared out because you and I talked in the OT room. And so if you didn't see that, and if it doesn't pop up, because I have a couple little, I have their website and then their intro video. So if it doesn't pop up, go back and look for that short or that reel, depending on which platform you're using, because it is an incredible, incredible room. And it offers so much. And the fact that it is the hub, basically, of the entire building just solidifies to me how important it is. And the fact that everyone in the building knows, accepts, and appreciates that room and utilizes it at least twice a day, you said, for every student. But then if they need it more, then they go in there more.
Yeah. It's true. And wait till you, hopefully we'll be able to like lure you back so you can come into the high school, because the high school also has a really great OT room. And the thing that I love about the difference of the two rooms is that the high school like really tries to create ways that as an adult, like people can still access what they need. So it's more of like, it looks more like almost like a fitness room, but it's got like some other great little things
Okay.
like a corner that has like, I've always wanted one of those chairs that are like on a hook and they're like little nests,
Oh, yeah.
some really nice lights, and there's some great other like equipment that the kids use. We still have, the mats with the weighted blankets if people just need a minute to breathe. It's there. So I can't wait for you to come back. See how I'm doing that? I'm bringing you.
I got it. You are coming back.
Right, well, you've got to come see our high school, because again, that's set up. But again, it's so thoughtful about, in the high school, actually, we're starting, I think, our 4th year in the building. So it's pretty awesome because everything is squeaky clean, just like the school that you saw, in the Webster Groves and all of that. It's pretty amazing, but it's still that very thoughtful planning. Like the gym, for example, in both locations is like, it's got a lot of soundproofing. So those kiddos that struggle with all the noise, it's a lot more muffled than like your standard gym, for example.
Yeah, there weren't a huge number of students there the day, because like you said, I was there during summer camp, so there might have been 15 or 20, but it was certainly quieter than other gyms where I've been, and there's been even 2 or 3 kids in there at that time. So do you mind if I do go ahead and show your video that you all sent me to share? I'll pull that up. Maybe. Here we go. Let's see if I can get this right. There we go. All right. So it should have the sound on it. So if it doesn't, somebody please let me know.
When you walk the halls of Miriam, you see progress.
It's an awesome place for unique learners.
Miriam serves kids who struggle in a traditional classroom.
Our students just need a little bit more support to reach their potential.
We have our Miriam School, which is K through 12. We have the Learning Center, which offers a variety of services, including diagnostic testing throughout Greater St. Louis. And then we have the Switching Post, which is a resale store that allows us to raise funds so that we can support children through our variable tuition program.
Everyone here is wonderful. Their understanding of my struggles, and all the teachers are very nice.
I want my students to be excited about learning, to feel okay to fail, but know that we're here to pick them up and to help them move forward.
We actually help a lot of different kinds of kids because we have a very personalized program, and that is something that you won't see anywhere else.
One of the ways Miriam has really supported my daughter is just by understanding who she is and what she needs, and that may be different from one of the other kids at school, but they understand each kid really individually, which is so powerful.
Another really important part of Miriam is that we offer integrated services. That means that throughout a student's day, they're able to have speech, occupational therapy, and counseling in their programming.
For her to receive that kind of instruction and therapy here is going to benefit her for the rest of her life.
Many parents are surprised when they come here that they don't have to advocate as much for their children. They know that their children are understood here, and they know that we've got them.
Our school provides support not only for the child, but for the family as well.
There's a sense of community. There is a sense of family, and we love our students.
It is so important to have this kind of education accessible, and I'm so enormously grateful for the tuition assistance that Miriam provides, because there are so many kids that need this kind of school.
There's some kind of magic that happens when people come together on behalf of children to give them what they need. And that's here at Miriam.
Okay, now I got to figure out how to find you all back. All right. Where is everybody? That is just incredible. And I love so much what the mom said. And we didn't really, I mean, we've hinted about it, but we haven't really said it directly, that at Miriam School, every child is valued for exactly who they are.
Right.
And where they are in their journey of life. And to have the parents just, oh, there you go. I have somebody who's going to visit you next month, Tracy Miller. So that's awesome. And to just have somebody who sees the child for exactly who they are and says, welcome, we love you. We're going to help you grow to the best version of yourself possible. That touches my heart more than you can imagine, because that's always what I felt was one of my biggest roles with my students. Because too often, by the time I got a lot of my students, they had been defeated and been pushed down unintentionally. Like you said, I worked with wonderful people too, but just the way that our school systems are set up,
Right.
it's not very positive for our kids who learn different.
It's just so hard, and sometimes if kids haven't had the opportunity that Miriam presents, like, the older they get, it's like kind of peeling back the layers of an onion to get to like how to really help, what's going on and give them the strategies to do that. I love that Miriam has a high school because, as kids continue to grow and we start to look more, at the end of high school and plan backwards to, make sure that we're able to give the students the capacity to go their own way, I feel like it's a Fleetwood Mac song, right? But like, to be able to go their own pathway. And the high school really has this curriculum that we've created called the Miriam Essentials. And so it looks at like, not only are we going to give kids like a really great, robust, transcript, which is important, right? And we do have AP classes at the high school. We do have, this year, we have a teacher who's going to be doing animal behavior. Wow. We have like this, like we have great classes, and we're really trying to build that. But the other thing we realize is that when kids graduate, and we look at the research on children who graduate from high school that learn differently, a lot of times within the first year or 2 years, they either fail out of college or they have a job, and then they tend to lose that job. And as our parents say, a lot of times their biggest fears are their child is going to graduate to the couch. And I just think that that's such a waste of amazing people. And our kids are amazing. They're the problem solvers of the future, really, so at Miriam High School, especially, we're starting to look at this Miriam Essentials curriculum, which looks at, knowing myself as like a learner, as a person, what are my strengths? What can I offer the world? What are the things that I need to be successful? And then as they grow older, like we look specifically at executive functioning skills, because that's where a lot of the breakdown seems to happen. And our kids, like a lot of people, right? Because the research kind of changes, but we could even say that, the brain might even not be fully developed till 28. So a lot of our kids, like they're that maybe that part hasn't developed, that frontal lobe. So like, how can we make sure that they have the tools, the techniques, and the strategies to be able to navigate those executive functioning skills, which are critical to living, not even just school, but to living. Right. So, we have that. We also have a wellness and well-being component. So making sure that our kids, when they graduate, they're not only able to navigate who they are as a person, but also make healthy choices. What are things that they need to be healthy, and kind of connecting them to that. Another component is relationships and community. So how do I create and maintain healthy relationships? And then how am I an asset to the community? What can I give back to the community? How do I see myself in there? And that is the notion of citizenship. Our kids can definitely serve, just as we all can in our community. They have so much to give, but sometimes they just don't know how. and it's giving them that exposure to it. That's critical. College and career readiness is something that I think a lot of high schools say that they do, but what we're trying to do is make sure that those kids have meaningful experiences. So on Fridays, usually every Friday at the high school, there's like a different activity that kind of sends us back to this Miriam Essentials. But, we do have a career and college readiness day where, for example, on one of the Fridays, the whole school is going to dress up and practice interviewing, whether it's for a job or for college. These are things where we can bring in the community to help us, but also see like how amazing our kids are, but also give them that practice. Also, we have the skills for life. So the kids that we have typically, they always need to be able to operate independently. But when we think about graduating and being, someone who's independent in life, we need to think about, can someone cook for themselves? Do they know how to cook? Do they know how to go to the grocery store and go shopping? How to budget for themselves? How to make sure that, they can do their laundry? We have all of those facilities here to help the kids do that. And then, we're also trying to help them bring them out to the community because, again, our kids sometimes compartmentalize things. So,
sure.
An example is like if a kiddo, our kids go out to lunch with their family, but they might never have gone out to lunch with friends. So teachers last year for our freshmen and sophomores facilitated this whole thing, whereas in their class, they talked about, okay, what restaurant do we want to go to? Like, how will we talk to the wait staff? How will, in math class, they looked at their menus. How much money will I need? How much will I tip? Because sometimes I've seen where we take kids out and, they tip and they like give the person a $20 for a $5 meal, So like, how do I tip? How do I navigate conversation at the table? What are we going to talk about? And then they like come back and they debrief about it. So those are like the links from like the curriculum to the real world that we try to provide. We also are looking really closely at, what can we do in terms of helping kids with their skills for life, wellness, and well-being. Sorry, my brain is freezing for a second.
That's okay.
But we have this curriculum that the kids are exposed to twice a day for half an hour. And so that we can build on those skills as they go through Miriam. And I think
I love the example of the going to the restaurant, because that is something that a typical quote unquote teenager does. And I remember doing that with my friends. We had open cafeterias when I was in high school. And so, groups of us would travel to the local places and get something and have our conversations there. But to realize that some of our neurotypical developing students don't have that. And so that is, I think, just awesome that, again, it's being able to see things in a different light and see like, okay, here's something that, maybe comes naturally to others, but it doesn't to this population. And so we're going to help them. And if it does come naturally, that's wonderful. We're going to help build that up even more.
Right. We are so lucky because we just last week purchased 2 passenger vans, so that one of the things we try to do, and we do have kids with transition plans, but trying to bridge between like curriculum and like life is that we are going to be taking our kids to internships and out into the community, not only for our kids to develop skills. And of course, there's a developmental continuum, like you said. So some kids may be really confident and able to do things at a lot faster pace than others, but we can always build, like as people, we can always build on our skills. So
absolutely.
we got 2 passenger vans that are coming our way, so that we can kind of get out there and share with the community, again, the good that our kids can bring them. I mean, there is work shortages everywhere. And our kids, again, have so much to offer. Sometimes we just have to educate the community that these kids are such a viable, amazing resource, and that they could do so much, as well as, having our kids develop the skills. So, that's the other thing that I love about Miriam is we always try to work in partnership with the community, because not only do we are like able to receive amazing gifts from people to keep our school going, so that we can make sure that we can help as many kids as we can, but also we give back, and so we're working on that piece too.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Now we're getting close to when we're going to have to stop. So I just want to make sure that I read the websites out loud. So to find out more information about Miriam, it's www.miriams, as in Sam, STL for St. Louis.org. So miriamstl.org. And then I also want to pull up again the website that your school had posted earlier about exploring the services through the Learning Center. And so that's that www.miriamstl.org/Miriam-learning-center/. So I want to make sure that people have those opportunities as well. And then I see that your Miriam staff, I love that they're with us. They also put up more about how to learn more about the experiential learning program, which again, go to that miriamstl.org, couple forward slashes and some Miriam experience. And I'm sure, is there a search on your website that if they want to look up the experiential learning, they can find that easily. And while we're talking about the website, let me just grab that really quickly and share it. Well, maybe, come on, wake up, computer. It was like, no, I'm done for the day. What are we doing?
Exactly.
So here's the website. Yeah. And you've got donate, blog, contact us, careers, events, about us. And then, it looks like there's lots of different places within that. And one of the things that was mentioned, here's the Learning Center, here's the switching post, and then here's ways to support Miriam. And that's also is where the Tuesday Talk-In Tour. So if you're within a couple of hours drive, even, I would recommend that you book yourself on a Tuesday Talk-In Tour, because it really was a great experience. And one of the things that I wanted to mention today, and it was in the video, was the little guy on the scooter.
Yes.
And I remember in the tour that we talked twice about the parking lot, because that's where all the scooters go. Do you want to talk about that really briefly?
Yes. Well, when any of you come for our Talk-In Tour, one of the things that you'll see is that sometimes our kids need a movement break. They need that input for their joints or whatever. And one of the things that we have right next to the OT room is what we call the parking lot, where you'll see lots of scooters. Sometimes you'll see those like hoppy balls and other ways that kids can, if they need a quick break, they do like a loop around the building. Because again, that OT room is in the center of the classrooms, and we have speech and language pathologists as well. We have actually 3 for a school of 104. And so like as they go around the loop, they're able to kind of get their wiggles out, their bodies feel better. But while we were walking around, we're like, at any time someone may be coming on a scooter, and the kids seem really great. I'm going to knock on wood, like at navigating that. I have not been hit yet, but we will be, when you come, we will be moving out of the way should they be coming through. But again, kids get what they need by the people that know them the best, and that's something that's such a gift.
Yeah, and you do have a little chat box. So, if you do have a question or you didn't get the websites I'm not seeing, and I could very well be missing it, the actual search for like searching the experiential learning or some of the other programs that we mentioned here. And I'm going to stop sharing that and come back to this.
Right.
Here we go. See, your staff are on it, man. Join us in person, register for Tuesday Talk-In Tour. So they were putting that up as I was actually showing it on the website. So I appreciate whoever your behind the scenes staff person is that's doing that, because that's absolutely amazing.
I am like one of the most blessed people ever for working with the I work with, because they have us, just like, we say to our families, we've got you, they've got me. So I'm so lucky to have them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things that we do need to touch on probably before we wrap up for today is the fact that this is a private school.
Yeah.
And it was mentioned in the video that I showed earlier that there is tuition assistance. Do you want to touch on that just a little bit before we go?
Yeah, I think it's really important that people understand that we are a private school. We have something called a variable tuition program, where we offer, a range of like costs for tuition based on, people will go in and they'll fill out like a online form. It's called FACS, and it helps them, kind of write out all their expenses, income and things. And if people need assistance, then we're able to try to look and offer it based on that range. We gave out over $2 million last year in support.
Wow.
And the switching post that we've talked a little bit about is our resale store, where we get amazing donations from people, and we're able to kind of create like a wonderful like store-like vibe, as my daughters would say. And all of the money that we make from the switching post goes to that variable tuition program, so that we can help as many kids as we can. We are, always looking to figure out a way to make things easier for folks, because we want to help, again, as many children as we can. So the best thing to do is to know that there is a range, but we're a work of heart. So I think it's like 85% of our budget just goes to salaries, so that we can, again, help kids with the most qualified people for what they need it when they need it. So,
Right.
So we're a work of heart. So we are a private school. And, I think in some respects that gives us more flexibility to have the mindset and the passion and the real potential for kids to grow, because there aren't other barriers in our way. Please, please always come and check us out, because we do have a range, and we're very honest. We only want to help we have a moral and ethical responsibility to help the kids that we can help. So there's some kids that need a little bit more that we're not trained to do, typically if kiddos need, more help in being independent, we don't have paraprofessionals at our school, just because our class sizes is so small, and so we really try to make sure that when people go through the admissions process, that we're very honest with them. And if we can't help, we always try to come up with other places people can go to. So that's one of the other things I love about us.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I did see on the website, although I don't think it popped up when I was sharing it, that you're enrolling now.
Yeah.
So you don't have a wait list right now, or you do, and you're just adding people to that?
No, we do have some available slots. The lower middle school is almost full, but we do have availability at the high school still, because again, it's a whole new facility. It's beautiful, and it's a little bit larger. So we do have availability at the high school at the moment. But for the lower middle school, it just depends on what age kids are, because some of those classrooms are, and we do have a wait list for the ages that, the classrooms are already full, because class sizes vary. I should have said this right earlier. One of our best things is small class sizes. So the little ones, it's a class size of 8. The middle elementary is classrooms of 10, and then the middle school is classrooms of 12, and the high school, it could vary from class sizes of 5 to as large as 14. But the 14 is more like the gym classes kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so, again, your staff is on it. Start your Miriam journey today at www.miriam-stl.org/Miriam-school/admissions/inquire-today. Meg, our time is up. We have to stop. And by the way, this will come out as a podcast at some point down the road. So I do want to mention that those enrollment openings right now are for the 23-24 school year. So if you are listening to this, just go to the website and see what's available for you at the time that you're hearing this, because, who knows what happens between now and the time the actual podcast comes out. So Meg, thank you so much. I truly am in love with your school. It is just such an amazing, I am. It's such an amazing place. And I wish all of the students that I ever worked with and continue to work with could come to you, because I know that they would flourish so much in that environment, because it truly is a loving, caring, nurturing, start where you are, not be disappointed because you're not at some other starting point, and so I truly do. I feel like I did a great job with my students, but I think, having a whole staff with a similar philosophy to mine would have helped the students grow even more. And that's what they get when they're at Miriam, I believe. So thank you so very much. One final thought from you, last thing?
No, I just want to say there's no place like Miriam, and we are here for everyone, and we are working hard to be that, educational hub for everyone, and to help in any way that we can. So please, if you're struggling, reach out to us, and we will do everything we can to help.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to her back office staff who were putting in all those web links for me. That was amazing. I so appreciate that. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us. Enjoy your talking tour. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. For the rest of you, if you're, like I said, within a couple of hours, it's worth the drive to check it out. And they even have they can talk to you about how that could work if you live a couple of hours away and how your child could go to their school.
Yep.
So thanks again, everyone. I will see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, parents and teachers, are you tired of IEP meetings that feel like a battle? Let's put an end to the tension and create a collaborative, calm, and respectful environment together. Shelley Keno, your go-to IEP consultant, can transform your meetings into positive and productive experiences. With Shelley Keno, your child is her top priority, your voice is heard, and you become confident. Shelley Keno is making the world better for all, one IEP at a time. Visit www.shelleykeno.com for more information and set up your free 20-minute consultation today. That's shelleykeno.com, SHELLEYKENOW.